We didn't do any legging. You don't get any
Also, in the tunnels, you'll experience it's very narrow on both sides of the boat. There's not a lot of room. So there's a very good chance I will bump the walls at some point, so don't be too worried if you feel or hear a bump. It's quite normal. But with that in mind, it is very important not to allow anything to go down the sides that could get pinned between the boat and the wall. So that green painted line that you see in front of you all the way around the rim is a good guide. If everything stays within that line, you can't possibly get pinned. And also, we have 3 shows during our trip. 2 of them are on the left and 1 of them is on the right. So if you are on the wrong side, facing the wrong way, we'll let you know it's okay to stand up to get a better view of that show. Otherwise, please do stay in the seat. So that's John in the middle of the boat. If you've got any questions, concerns, he's your man. My name, to make things easy or confusing, is also John. So I'll be the one at the back talking to you when you go around. There's flashing lights in one of our shows, no strobe, but some flashing lights. On that subject, would you, as a courtesy to everybody around you, please switch your flashes off on your phone so you don't blind people as we are. In some places it's dark, but then the lights do come up, so you will get lovely photos with contrasting colours and lights if you don't use your flash. All the apparatus we need to carry is on board. That's the light things you may have noticed in the boat with you, as well as the extinguishers by the steps. First aid, and the engine at the back with me. And there we go. We're in. Welcome to the Dudley Tunnel. You're all committed now. So, we just entered in through the north-east end of the Dudley Tunnel. The other end is southwest from here. That's the direction it sort of follows on the map. You know, bird's eye view, it's diagonal north-east to southwest through Dudley hillside. And it is limestone mines. That's what this tunnel and canal is all about. It was paid for by the Earl of Dudley, whose local name is Lord Ward, forming over centuries. It is similar to the stuff that you get on your taps or your shower heads, or on the walls of your shower. If you didn't clean the walls of your shower for 250 years, they might look a bit like our walls. At the front of the boat, if you look up here, you're heading underneath a construction shaft. Now this is a way of digging out a tunnel more efficiently. This one's called Shirt Mill Shaft. I'll tell you more about those later. Now we exit out into Shirt Mill Basin. Escaped the tunnel briefly, but it would have been a cavern at one point up until about 1850. Now on our left-hand side there is a mine called Flooded Mine, and on the right a mine called Tipton Mine. The Flooded Mine is a drift mine, meaning it was the old style where you just dig into the exposed reserves and you keep going until you've exhausted what you want. The one on the right is the kind of mining vertical shafts that came out in the industrial age, where they start digging deeper into the earth to get to more of what they want. And this is where there's a labyrinth of mines below us as well. So we've got another short bit of tunnel, and then we exit into another basin, this one called Castle Mill. As we come round the bend, on the right-hand side, you will see a big set of concrete steps as we exit the tunnel here. So this is the front of what used to be a mine, Kettle Mine. It fell in, so it had to be shored up with the concrete. But also, adjacent to that, there is another tunnel. The entrance into the Wren's Nest Tunnel, which leads under the namesake hillside, Wren's Nest Hill, and into a cavern system called the Seven Sisters. The name comes from 7 huge stone pillars that support the cavern roof. And you will actually see a cavern like that during our trip. But this one, the tunnel that's now behind us, the plan is that we want to dig that out, and we'd like to include it as part of our tour, as part of this boat tour, or maybe as a walking tour, we're not really sure. The first thing to do is to raise the funds to be able to dig it out and then make it safe for visitors, which is surprisingly expensive. The projection is around £28 million, and that's just to start. So this is Castle Mill Basin, as I mentioned. Little haven for wildlife. We get moorhen, herons and ducks, and there's mink that come down here. There's a badger that lives in the other basin on the side of the hill. And there's a bird of prey. A buzzard has taken up residence here recently as well. So because it's so low down, most of the sound travels over the top, and there's no pedestrian foot traffic through here because it's all sealed off. So it's a really peaceful little spot, really lovely spot. And we have another mine ahead of us on our left, mud mine at the end of the walk there. So there's the kettle mine and mud mine where they're loaded out. And then we're going into a modern tunnel, which is the way that we create a circuit system. So to the right-hand side, there is the original Dudley tunnel. So that's the continuation originally. We'd have gone in that way to get into the mines, but we go in this modern one and we then exit that later on. So this one was opened by the Trust in 1989. We call it the 89 tunnel, but it is also known unofficially as the Watford tunnel. This is because of the lining system that they use called airbox construction, where is that you bore out a tunnel and then the rock is not solid enough on its own. Then you have to line it with something. In this case, it's this stuff called airbox construction. Sprayed with concrete as well. Then it ends and it's into a tunnel that's a lot more rocky and a lot rougher. This is like this because when they were boring out their modern tunnel, they didn't discover a vein of limestone, but somehow, centuries ago, it missed. So they were able to dig that out, sell that on, and then you end up with a much harder rock surrounding that core approach. So this is solid, and it isn't a risk of having large pieces come away. So there's no point in lining it. Literally no point. Well, you wouldn't add any strength to it by doing that. So the concrete is spraying on it here, but it doesn't get any strength. That might as well be like icing on a cake. This is just to stop smaller pieces falling away and bouncing off your hat. Very twisty turn because we follow the natural direction of it. Around this bend, you'll see that there's another way of reinforcing the tunnel. So this it is rigid, not rigid, sorry, whereas the airbox was, whereas this is a flexible version. So it's like a rib cage, it looks like some giant creature's rib cage, and it kind of acts like one where it can flex and bend, but it still does the job of keeping the integrity of everything together. Network. It is, in fact, there was another tunnel into the press originally, so that's on our right, on the opposite side of the screen. And it's filled in now, so you can see the other end of that tunnel later on. Also on the left, behind the screen, was the entrance into Dark Cavern, so it's in an annex in a way, this cavern into Dark Cavern. Massive one as well, big enough to fit St. Paul's Cathedral in, which is not an exaggeration, it was huge. It's the main reason why we don't use it anymore, because it was just too big, too costly to maintain a cavern of that size. Which is a real shame, because it was kind of custom designed for visitors, where when the mining was completed, they installed gas lighting, a series of pathways, and steps, and performance area. Did all sorts of events in there. But then it had to be filled in by the trust much later on because of the cost of maintaining something that big. Now this is rock tunnel that we moved ahead into, and as you can see, it's a lot more of an encroaching tunnel. It was never really designed for a boat. It was a line part of a tram system originally, which is why it sort of comes in on the sides a lot and lower it, with the duck block and come through. Here on the right, you've got two big patches of calcite, so more of the same stuff coming from the limestone. Here, quite significant deposits, so we light these up for you. Opposite them on the left is a volcanic ash band, which is a scar in the rock. You can see in a couple of places where there's like a big gap here. Another one coming up in a moment. So this is a layer of ash from massive eruptions originating out
The castle here for hundreds of years, but the arrival of the canal prompted a rapid increase in mining activity, and at its peak, the Dudley mines produced over 100,000 tons of limestone a year. The extraction of the stone left behind a network of vast caverns, which became an attraction for scientists, engineers, and visiting dignitaries from abroad. The Dudley Caverns have also played an important role in the development of the science of geology and became renowned internationally for the quality and diversity of the fossils that have been discovered here. In 1849, addressing a meeting of scientists here at the Dudley mines, the eminent geologist Sir Roderick Murchison proclaimed that Dudley. In the 1850s, the caverns were open to the public. Gas lighting was installed, cars laid out, and a bandstand constructed. Many fetes and concerts were held in these mines, with entertainment provided by orchestras, choirs, and military bands. Coloured flares were ignited, and demonstrations of blasting carried out. Those events were perhaps a forerunner of today's classical spectacular concerts. And although some of the mines were accessible from the surface, many visitors came by canal boat, just as you have today. Since those times, technology has moved on, and we no longer have to risk the dangers of gas and gunpowder to provide light and sound. But imagine for a moment.
new tunnel that the Trust completed, and that was to get the boat trips running back into Singing Cavern. So as I mentioned, the original tunnel into the test had collapsed, so there was no way to get in there with a boat. Assisted with digging out a lot of the tunnels and the mines, what symbolised their body shovel and the hands. And this is Hurst Cavern that we're coming through, and over to the far right hand side, ahead of us on the right, there is the other tunnel entrance, which is the continual or the extension of the Dudley tunnel that was added in later, as I mentioned. That opened in 1792, that's about a mile and a half long, that's the bit that takes you out to Bridle Hill, the southwest end of the Dudley tunnel. The reason it was set that way is because that's where all of the iron foundries and metal plants worked, and this is the fact that a lot of the limestone is used in smelting, producing a better quality metal, extracting the impurities. The flux, as we mentioned in the first bill. And so of course the limestone goes to school on the Sunday school. That's if he'd wanted to learn to read and write and do his sons, as it was an option, usually run by the local churches, so a bit of religious worship too. As we head underneath here, there's another shaft. This is one of the other construction shafts. So I said I'd tell you more. This one has got lots of calcite in, so it's quite pretty, makes for a good picture. And there's colours in the calcite which come from the iron ore up there, so you've got different colours, like the clay where it's coloured yellow. Now this is a chamber that we call Cathedral Arch. It would be a cavern, but it's entirely lined with brick. It's not that much smaller than, you know, her side. Again, it's part of the chamber that is brick lining. And you get a name that we like because it's a very complex brickwork, which is, you can see or appreciate best of all on the left-hand side. So if you're on the right, it's behind you, basically. There's a tunnel out there, looking at the ceiling. It looks like vaulted ceilings that you do get in churches or cathedrals. Now that is the other tunnel we went through as a little test. That's how the boats got into there originally. And then you have those two boats there, which represent the boats used in bringing the stone out of the mines. Although they were bigger than the one that's on the right, and they didn't have any cabins on like the one on the left. And they were wooden originally. So something like between the two of them. But regardless...
Slide right out, slide right out. Yeah. Push it across the middle.
Come back to the middle slightly, and then if you're on the right you push to the left, if you're on the left you push to the right, and that's it. This is it folks, legging. Simple and as complicated as this. We're moving along quite nicely, pretty quick. They do this for about 2 hours at a time, about 2 hours. But they will do it in total darkness as well, which is a lot darker than this. So you're going to run out of time very quickly.
There you go.
So bring yourselves back in. Very well done. Thank you very much for doing that. Effectively, we were here in Dudley, and that's all they did. They didn't mine, they just legged all day, 12 hours a day, bringing the boats out of the mines. So initially, the raw material, the limestone, in its base material, would be brought out to this end of the tunnel where we are. And they would then cook that down into lime powder, which is where you all got on the boat. On the opposite side there was an entire row of kilns, the full length, all the way past the museum as well, as far as you can see really. And then that would have to be either that would either go on to the northeast end of the canal system here. So it could go on the Birmingham-Wolverhampton Canal, and therefore there's no legging required. That's off on its journey to wherever it's going. But if it had to go back through the powder down to those plants in the southwest, then you have the leggers here to do that too. 1.9 miles, taking just under 2 hours for a 30-ton vessel. That's a mile an hour. You guys were going about 3 or 4 times faster than that. But, you know, like you ran out of tunnel wall, you couldn't reach the walls anymore, and of course you wanted to drift across those voids. Otherwise you've got to get your poles out and you're punting off the bottom. So you basically, you know, you try to build up enough momentum. So there was this other technique. So you guys lay on your back and you do get the maximum push that way, the most force pushing to the side. But you could lie on your side and you then ended up sort of in a running position. You know, you weren't pointing the way that it was like a normal walk, but you're on your side. And that way you could get up, try and get the speed up to really drift across places like that. But that was hard, you know, 30 tons is difficult as you experience. Getting it moving is hard. It was common, and that means you got 3 times 30 tons plus the weight of the boats, it's over 100 tons. And that took up to 4 hours. Couldn't take longer than that because that time limit was set by the Dudley Canal Company, so you couldn't spend all day legging your way through. It was considered a good job, you know, better than mining, better money than miners in fact. So that's Shirt Mill Basin again, with the 2 mines on either side of us. Tipton mine on the right produced some coal, which is the only one that did produce anything other than limestone. Some of that coal would go up this coal chute. That's why it's brick line. We're not there yet. I'm pointing at nothing. It's up this coal chute. Well, it's kind of like the reverse coal chute. So the coal went up instead of down. That's why it's lined with the brick. So at the top there was a steam pump and a cottage because the pump was run 24 hours a day So they had a shift of workers or engine men running that to pump out all the mines underneath us. So most of the coal from that Tinton mine did go to the industrial processes, but some of it went up there. About 30 tonnes a day. It also had room for 2 boats, both directions, as well as tow paths on both sides for your horse, and they built enough ventilation into it then that today you can run a modern combustion engine through without any fear of the fumes or the asphyxiation. So we can't. We run electric boats, and they have been doing that, the trust, since the 80s, so they are way ahead of the current curve of electric vehicles. So yeah, we have to run electric. Apparently it's bad business to asphyxiate your passengers. That's where all the lime kilns are on our left as we come out, so you can see the remains of some of the walls here. There's one there behind the sign, and then there's a bit of wall there, and that tunnel ahead of us on the left, well, we're always asked, where does that one go? It doesn't, it's a lime kiln. That's what that one is. So folks, well done, congratulations, you survived the mine trip. We're going to pull in on the right hand side in a moment, so as we come in we do tend to bump and the boat can stop suddenly as the line goes on, so it's a good idea to remain seated until we're tied up. But on behalf of the Trust and from John and myself, and Kev, our towpath volunteer, thank you very much for coming with us today. It was a pleasure to take you around. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Our leggers, I'll get your certificates for you. We've got a couple of them at the reception. We've got your tickets.